Welcome back to the next part of our How to Make a Board Game in Unreal Engine 4 tutorial series. This video is going to be optional. What we're going to do is create a die, which was a request in one of the comments, and it's not actually something I've done before, so I was kind of interested in trying to do it. So we'll make the die in Blender, and then we will implement it into the tutorial. I don't know. I don't have any plans of actually implementing dice roll in the board game I'm currently making, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of do this and learn how to do it. Um, Show you all how to have the functionality if you want to have that in your game. Um, and maybe I'll end up using some dice rolls later. So then I have that in. So first thing we're going to do, just add a mesh cube and go into edit mode and have everything selected and then subdivide. We're going to do 6 cuts and 0.1 smoothness. You do whatever you want on the smoothness. I might even go 0.05. It just gives it a little bit more of a rounded look versus perfectly square. I might go back to 0.1. Yeah, I kind of like that. And then from there, we'll add a modifier, which is subdivide surface. And we'll do 3 level viewports and then click this button for on cage. So now we got the shape we want. And if you click the Z, get into our top view and make sure you're on selection faces. So now we're actually going to put in our, kind of number holes or whatever. So shift select and extrude with E and then minus 0.05, enter. So I kind of indent them. And then after that, we're going to do a loop cut. So do Control R, and you want this box, and then just right click, right click, right click, right click. So I'm left clicking, then right clicking. That sets in the loop. So that just gives it a nice little look. And then before I go any further, I should have actually done this before. We're going to create a couple materials. So I've already made mine, but I'll show you how to do this. So make one, it'll be the marble, and the other one, like numbers or black. So I have this, kind of marbly look. I got this from, I'll add this down below, but from this site called Free Pick. So you can get textures from there and then make sure you accredit them. But I just searched marble and I just grabbed this one. I didn't want anything that was too, I like a little bit of texture on there, but it doesn't need to be too standoutish for me. So this is one I picked. And then when you download, free download, and then copy this accreditation. So you'll just have to have this somewhere in your game. And then from there, when you have it downloaded, you can simply just switch your material. I'll show you how to do that with the numbers. Click base color, import texture, and then you can just drop it in. So my marble texture is just that texture I downloaded. And then my numbers is just simply a black base color. So I'm going to come back to this and I'm going to grab these faces. And I should have done that when I extruded it because I had them all selected. So we'll do that for the next ones. Let's get all these selected and then click numbers and assign. All right, so I think looks pretty good. I like that a lot actually. Let me pull up a picture of a die so I can make sure I get the sides right. Okay, so next we'll come down on our, x-axis. And this will be our 2. So I'm going to do this one and this one. So again, extrude with E minus 0.05. That brings that in. And we need our loop cut. And then let's select these faces. I think I just did the circles, right? Not the actual outside. Assign. I think that's how I did it. Yeah. So yeah, this part belongs to marble. This part to the numbers. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. You could, maybe you could do these two instead if you wanted to, but I think this looks fine. Okay, then we'll come down to the bottom. And this will be our single. So extrude with E, minus 0.05, and then loop cut it, right click, flip back to faces, grab this and assign. Good. And then on this side, this will be our 5. So go here, 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 here. Extrude, minus 0.05, enter, then loops. You probably don't have to do these loops. I think it just kind of sets a little bit more, it just kind of makes the hole look a little bit better, I think, and more circular. So I think it's worth doing, but you certainly don't have to. Grab all those faces and assign. Okay, and then off the 1, put our 4 here. So this, and this. Extrude, minus 0.05. Okay. Face select. And face select. Face select and face select. I'll go back to our materials, assign. Okay, and we should just have one more. And this will be our 3. Extrude, minus 0.05. Loop cut, which is Control R. Okay, face. And assign. And let's see how that looks. There, I think that looks pretty good. Might play around with, yeah, that won't work. If you wanted to make it bigger, you could select these kind of sockets like this, and then you should just be able to kind of scale it. Right, you could do something like that, and if you selected all of them together, they'd scale in proportion, but I think this looks good enough. So then let's apply our subdivision. And then I just want to look at a bevel and just see if this makes it look better or worse. Actually, let's do a smooth first. This isn't doing a heck of a lot, actually. I think I probably, let me go back. Let me wait on the, I'm going to not apply the subdivide quite yet. I just want to look at some of these different, yes, there's the bevel. Yeah, it's not really doing much. I think I'm just going to leave it, not do the bevel, reapply the subdivision. Okay. And then we need to unwrap this. It's going to UV editing and smart wrap UV. Actually, I wonder if I can just unwrap. No, because we have to put an edge. Okay, so what we're going to do, we'll have to create some seams. I should have done this before I subdivided it, but oh well. So if you're not an expert on UV mapping, right, maybe you're happy with the smart UV unwrap, and this is probably fine, but I want to kind of get this a little bit better. You can skip past this if you're fine with it, but here's how you do it. Basically, we need to separate out these faces. So I'm going to find where the kind of middle should be, and Shift and Shift Alt will kind of select the whole way down. And really, I'm just kind of separating out the different faces of the die. So Shift click and then Shift Alt. Okay, so we have this outline. I'm going to right click, mark seam. So what this does is I can unwrap now. but it's going to be really janky still. But you can see this face is completely independent, but then the rest are UVing together. So we got to continue to kind of cut this up. So Shift, Alt click, Shift, Alt click, and let's get our bottom. Shift, Alt click, and let's mark that as a seam. So we should have 2 squares. Perfect. So let's keep going. Shift, and then Shift, Alt click, Shift click, Shift, Alt click, and Shift, Shift, Alt click, mark seam, Shift, Shift, Alt click, and Shift, and Shift, Alt click, mark seam, and this should be surrounded. Okay, now we can select all and unwrap. Boom, perfect. Okay, that looks better, and I think that should look better in here too. Yeah, I like that. It's a pretty good looking die. Okay, so now we will file, export this as an FBX, and I'll put this in my board game assets, die, selected objects only, and under geometry, we want to do smooth, smoothing on the face, export. Now let's come into the editor, and I'll just put this under assets. I'll make a folder, die, and then file, import. Where do I keep this? Board game. Let's see, Blender, board game assets, die. This is probably ginormous. It's not so bad actually. If you want to shrink it down, you can either scale it down within Blender, or we'll likely spawn it too, so then we can shrink it there, or within your import settings, you can do a scale rotation or a uniform import scale. So I'll do like 0.8 re-import. And I'll make it a little bit smaller. And then let's create the material. So die material. And this is simply just a texture. And I have a black anywhere. I'll just create one. Die, create material, die black. And this will just be a constant 3, black. Come back into our die. And then die, material, and black. Boom. Okay. I think this looks pretty good. I'm going to do one more thing here in Blender too. I'm going to make a really kind of thin cube. But basically, I'm just going to make like actually, I'm going to do it as a circle. I'm going to make like a tray kind of that it'll roll onto. So scale this up quite a bit. Maybe something like that. Shrink this way down. And edit mode. Select face. I want this. So I'm just holding Shift, Control, and clicking, and then it selects everything in between. And then what I'll do is extrude that, right-click, and scale that up a little bit. And then we will GZ, make that a little taller. I think I want this to go further out too. GZ. And I might actually scale this in a little bit more. So basically, right, it's kind of a plate. So should it'll spawn, roll into this plate, and then that'll select it, or then it'll land on our face. I'm gonna make this seam, so I'm just alt click and get back to my top view, scale. Oh, so we have that set selected. Grab this one too. So Shift Alt click, and I'm just gonna scale this whole thing up a little bit. So want these kind of steep corners so that the die kind of hits this, it should roll down, and then there's a nice big area for the die to drop in. So if I bring this back to 0, Control or GZ, that's how big it is. I think this should be sufficient. And I'll probably have it drop from like this, and then we'll apply kind of a random roll to it. And then it will fall, kind of bounce around, and then simmer in there. That's how we get our roll. So we'll just call this, and I don't know, I'll give this that marble material too. Let's do some seams again. Right click, mark seam, and we'll do that down here too. Mark seam, then we can select all, UV unwrap, and let's see how this looks. Ooh, that didn't unwrap well at all. Operate on a non-scaled. Why is it being weird? Okay, all you have to do is go back into your modeling, go into edit mode, and select it, and then do Control A, apply all transforms. So you probably have some scaling. I was like in the 6s, so I was screwing it up. So apply all the transforms, and then in your UV editing, edit mode, select all faces, just unwrap it. So then you should have something that looks like this, and come back in edit mode. I think that looks pretty good. And you can obviously use whatever you want, but I'm just doing something quick. I'll export this. I'll just call this like die, I don't know, roll plate. And make sure in your export settings you have selected objects, then geometry, face. We'll come back into the editor, import the plate, and then we'll just give this that die material. Yeah, you could do like a glass material and grab it from free picks or whatever you want, but I think this looks good enough. And then let's just see what this looks like. So the way I kind of see this working is this will kind of spawn in the middle of the map whenever I do need to do a die roll, and then this die will just spawn above it, drop onto the plate, roll, we'll get a number, and then that will be used for a roll, and then we can destroy both of these actors and carry on with the game. Whenever a die roll is needed, these will just spawn in. Okay, so then what we're going to do next, so let's get these out of our map. We're going to create a blueprint class actor. Let's call this BP die. And we'll add in a static mesh. Let's call this the die. We'll grab our die. And then there's a component called arrow. So this will be arrow 1. We're going to have 6 of these. And this needs to be scaled up. There it is. Okay. So scale to 2. And so this arrow needs to point up from our 1. So I'll pitch this down at 90. And then we'll do arrow 2. And where's our 2? There it is. So let's get rid of the pitch and rotate this yaw 180. Okay. Arrow 3. Pull this over by 90. arrow 4, pull this around, arrow 5, and then arrow 6, where's this one? There, 90. Perfect. So we should have an arrow coming out of each side. Okay, so then next, I'm going to grab these arrows quick. Whoops. Where did my arrow one go? There we go. I'm going to grab all these, and I'm actually going to scale them to 2.5. I don't think it'll matter, but this makes them stand out a little bit more. And we're going to create an event, custom event, roll die. And first thing we'll do is grab your die and then type in set simulate physics. So that's what this is, and we'll check that on. And the way I'm going to do this is, let's come back into our main menu and widgets, our HUD widget. I'm just going to make a button. It'll just be roll die. Again, I'm probably not going to, this will be implemented differently in game if I do choose to bring it, but I just want to kind of show how you could do this. So something like that, and 100 by 100. And we'll just put a text. Roll die. And let's put auto wrap. Okay. And we need somewhere for this to spawn. So I think what I'll do, we'll do this empty actor. And I'll put this up here. I'm just going to call this die spawn point. Actually, when do, yeah, I think this will be fine. Die spawn point, and then I'm also going to give it a tag. And again, I'm just going to call it die spawn. I think this will be the best way to do this. So then within click, not modes, blueprints, and we'll create an open level blueprint. So we'll spawn the die through the game mode, but to actually get this reference in the map, we're going to get that from our level blueprint. So we'll make a custom event, spawn die. And from here, we're going to do a get actors. Let's see, get actors tag, get all tag actors with tag. And then the tag we want is, what do we call that? Die spawn. I'm just going to copy and paste that. So it should just be one. It'll be a for each. And we will spawn actor. Yeah, spawn actor from class. And our class will be the VP die. And when we return this actor, we'll get spawn or get transform. Get actor transform, and that will pull through into our spawn. And I don't think any of this will matter. So let's come back into our HUD and let's name this button spawn die button. Go back into our graph and click it and then on clicked. And from here, see, the HUD only operates on the client, so it can't interact with the game instance. So we're gonna have to go through the player controller for this. So we will see, do we get a reference? Yeah, we do. So in our event construct, we're getting only player, casting to our PC turn base, and then setting that reference. So we'll get that here. I want to make an event. So let's go into our player controller, into the event graph. I'm just going to put this somewhere up here. Custom event, spawn die server. Make this a server, reliable. And only one thing before I forget to, in our BP die, go into, I think it's class defaults. Yep. So search replicates, and you should find this button here. Click replicates. So what this will do is when we spawn this on the server, it'll replicate to all the children if this is set to true. Just drag all this stuff over. And I'm going to close out of this and this. Get rid of some of this junk we have open. Okay. And so our player controller, this will run on the server. And in our event begin play, we do get a reference to the game mode. And then we save that reference. So let's grab this event. So let's get our game mode. And then from our game mode, we'll do another custom event. Actually, we want to do an event dispatch. Spawn die. And I think it's spawn die, call spawn die. No. How do you do this? Okay. I figured it out. Apologies, it's my first time ever working with dice, so kind of learning as I go. So first thing, come back into your HUD. We have our player controller, so get that spawn die server. And then what we need to do is in our game mode, create the event dispatch spawn die, and simply drag off this and do the event. And then go into your level blueprint. And off of the begin play, let me redo this. And I'll get rid of this. So yours should look like this right now. On begin play, right click and get game mode. And cast to game mode turn based. And then from here, event bind. We're going to bind event to spawn die. So what this does is whenever this event and the event dispatch that we created here is called in the game mode, it'll also run here, and we'll tie it to an event here. And the event I want to tie it to is our spawn die. So just take this red box, connect that here. And then this will spawn the die. And after we spawn it, we want to call this event roll die. So this in a level blueprint roll die. And that should be it. So let's walk through this quick. Within our HUD, click the button, spawn the die. And from the game mode turn-based reference, we will call the spawn die event. So I don't know if I should, guess I did probably do spawn die event, which this will run here, which won't do anything other than trigger this event in our level blueprint, which will then get the reference actor for the spawn location. We'll get that transform, spawn the actor, and then we'll do the dice roll. So let's try it out. So I click it, click the button, and nothing. Why? Okay, I figured it out. So get rid of this, any code that we had in the player controller of the spawn die server, and in your game mode, get rid of your reference to the spawn die. Come back into your player controller, and off the game mode, we're just going to do the call spawn die, or let's see, spawn die. Yeah, call spawn die. And this will call it on the game mode, but we don't want to be calling this anywhere. So if you do have a reference, get rid of it. And within your level blueprint, make sure you still have it binding. So it's still going to call on the game mode, but we're actually not going to run any code. But it will trigger this. So now, when we press roll die, we should have it appear, but it's not moving for the client. The client can spawn it, but it's not actually doing anything. So I think we'll have to play around with how we're setting the physics. Okay, so to get the die to move, so we have this event that we're simulating the physics, and let's make this run on the server and reliable. The other piece of this we want to do is click on your die and search replicate. So you want to check component replicates. So the overall actor is replicating, but we also need the individual component too. So now we will have it spawn and move for both. There's going to be another bug. So you can see it moving, right? It's rolling, but the client has it in a different spot. And basically what's happening is we're getting this spawn location, but only the server knows about this actor, our spawn reference point. And so this transform isn't appropriately getting to the die for the client. So the workaround for this is come back into your die, your BP die. You're going to create two custom events. One will be on the server, set location server. So make a custom event, name it that, and make it run on server and reliable. And give it an input of a transform and call that location. And then make another custom event, set location MC, and that will be a multicast reliable, also with an import or an input of a transform. And off of your location, set location server, that'll just run to the multicast, and we'll pass the transform through, and then get a reference to self and set actor transform, and then pass that information through. And the way we'll get the transform is back into our level blueprint. So when we spawn the die, we'll get all actors of class with the tag spawn, die spawn for each loop. We'll spawn the actor, and then immediately after that, we get rid of this. We'll come off this and set location server and connect that into this execute. And the transform will be the actor transform. And then we're just going to run a really short delay. So this will allow the client instance die to get its location set appropriately before we actually roll it. So pass that through, a little delay, and then connect that to the roll die, and this will pass the transform through. So now we come in, roll the die. This will drop on both of them, but it will replicate from the server, so they'll both be showing the same thing, right? And then the client can roll it too, and both see it, 2 and 2. Next, we want to spawn that actual little plate. So I might move this up a little bit, and then I'm going to hold Alt, drag down to duplicate it. Do something like this, and we'll just call this plate spawn. And we're going to make a actor for this as well. So wherever you made your BP die, make a new blueprint class actor BP plate. And you might not want the plate, right? Maybe you want to just roll around on the map, but I like the flat surface. So add in a static mesh, because then you don't have any weird rolls that it's kind of sideways and kind of screws up the logic. What do we call this? Die plate? Yeah, die roll plate. Okay. And so then back into our game mode turn-based, spawn die, we'll still use that event dispatch. So come back in the level blueprint. And what we're going to do is kind of drag all of this down a little bit. So we're going to spawn the plate first. So we're going to copy this logic, get all actors with tag and for each loop. But instead of die spawn, we'll grab this plate spawn tag, paste that here, and then from there, we're going to have to do kind of similar logic. So we'll get this actor transform, but we want to make sure both the client and the server have the plate in the same place. So let's come into our BP plate event graph, and we'll do two custom events. Set location server and an input, which will be a transform, and then custom event, set location MC, and we'll make that a multicast reliable. Is this one reliable? Make this run on server reliable. Forgot to do that. So first one, make sure you have this as run on server reliable. Second one, multicast reliable, transform. And just like before, go into class defaults and set this as replicates, and then the static mesh component replicates. Okay, in our location server, we'll set location multicast, pass through our transform, and off of this, we'll grab a reference, get reference to self, set transform, set actor transform, this and this. Okay, and then back into our level blueprint. So copy this, spawn an actor of class, but this will be BP plate. Connect this, connect the transform, and then set location server, and pass this transform through. Okay, and I think that's all we have to do for the plate. And then on the completion of the loop, so on complete, we'll then spawn the die. Then we'll do all that logic. So now let's see how this works. Okay, so a couple things. One, I want to bring this spawn down quite a bit. And we've got to set collision. So go into your die, roll plate, static mesh. And under details, search collision. And under this collision complexity, flip this to a use complex as simple. So what this will, so basically, right, it has simple collision, which is basically, or it did, which is basically just, it'll basically be a cube around it, which is why it didn't interact. But with the complex collision, you can kind of see these purple lines. This actually makes it so its collision is by its shapes, more accurately by its vertexes. But this should make this roll a little bit better. So now it'll fall, bounce around, and now we'll actually apply a little bit of kind of random tilt to it. But as you can see, this is replicating properly. Okay, so now we're going to add a little bit of rotation to it. So within our BP die, I just did this, but I'll rework it for you. So after we simulate the physics, and actually, let's rearrange this. So off of your die, type in set world rotation. So you'll get this, and then right click and split the pin. Let me just get rid of this stuff. Okay, so and we'll split the pin, and then you can drag off one of these and random float in range. And It'll either be 0 or 360, right? And 360 degrees, right, is a full rotation. So, and we'll plug all these in. So it'll just get a random roll, pitch, and yaw. And then after we set that, then we'll simulate the physics. And one other thing I did here quick too is within my game mode, I created a function. So just click this, create a function and call it remove all die. And then within this function, first get all actors of class, the die, run a for each loop, and then for each loop, destroy the actor. And then on the complete, get all actors of class, get your BP plate, for each loop, destroy actor. And what we'll do is back in your player controller, when we're actually spawning the die, first off your game mode, run the function, destroy all die, and then call spawn die. So what this will do is every time we spawn a die, it will remove all the other die and the plate and respawn it every time. That way we don't end up with, 50 dice out there. Okay. And now when that die spawns, it'll spawn, we'll set the location, run a quick delay, roll the die, it'll set a random rotation, and then simulate the physics. So let's test that now. So client spawns it, and when we respawn it, it's back. I don't know if it's spawning. Oh, one sec. Okay, so these actually have to be rearranged. Sorry about that. So then your BP die, roll die, simulate the physics first, and then set the roll rotation. I don't know why that was creating issues, but this does fix it. So now when we spawn the die, spawn in, and roll around, click it again, and it rolls around, shows 6, shows 6. There is an issue with, on the client side, it can't actually see the rotation when it comes in. It will roll and simulate physics appropriately because it's matching the server, but the rotation isn't spawning through, which I think is fine. The way you would do it to always match the rotation would be you'd have to pass that through as a variable, or not as a variable, but as a kind of hard code through a function, and then multicast to set rotation, and then simulate the physics. But I think this is fine. The one thing though I do want to fix is sometimes the die comes in pretty flat. So I'm going to change this minimum to something like 15 so that it always, and maybe bring the maximum, because 360 is basically flat, so maybe 345. So it's always coming in at least at a 15-degree angle. That way, right, because it's possible it could just spawn straight down and then not roll. So I want to force it to always have some sort of angle so we get a roll. Okay, so now what we have to do is actually figure out what side it rolls on. So we have these arrows, and basically, if one of these arrows has a get forward vector, if the forward vector is 1, that would mean it's facing up. Well, 1 in the, if we split it, 1 in the z. So the z equals 1. That means it's facing up. So what we have to do is let's make a custom event and stopped rolling, or let me just stop. So this will be a check we'll do after our dice roll. So we'll come up here, stopped, and from here we will get actor location, and we'll promote this to a variable, stopped location. And I want this to run on server reliable. And then we'll do a delay, 0.2 seconds, get our actor location again, and then does this equal And I'm going to plug this in like this, and then stop location get, plug that into the top. I'll do like a variance of 0.5. I think it'll be fine. And if true, so this is basically, this is going to loop, because if the actual location does not equal the stop location, if that's false, we're going to run this event again. So this is basically going to keep looping every 0.2 seconds until the actual location equals our stop location, which means it's stopped moving around. So if it's true, system event get dice roll. So if it stopped rolling, then we'll do get dice roll. And then from here, we have to figure out what side is up. So how we'll do that is we'll drag all of these off. Let's put them in a line. And get forward actor, or forward vector. And we'll need 6 of these. Let's line them all up. Actually, I should have copy and paste these differently. Oh well. And connect all these in. And let's pretty this up a little bit. Okay, and then off this, does this vector equal a 1 on the z? And we'll allow a variance of 0.5. And actually, one thing quick on our stopped. I don't want this variance this big, so I'm going to do 0.0001. Not 0.5 there. 0.5 here is fine, but this 0.001. Okay. And then from this, we'll do a branch. So does the forward equal, or vector equal 0.5 with the variance, or does it equal 1 on the z with the variance of 0.5? Connect this. And then I'm going to create a variable in here, and this will be an integer. And this will just be called the dice roll number. And we'll make this reliable. And let's make this event run on the server, reliable. I think this, yeah, stopped is already running on the server, so it's perfect. Get dice roll server. Okay. So if this is true, we will set this to 1. And if this is not true, then we're going to kind of go down the check. So copy paste this, plug this in, and then we'll be checking is arrow 2. Again, arrow 3. And arrow 4. And I'm going to bring these over. I think this will look a little bit better. A little better organized at least. All right, let's grab this, paste, false. And just one more. Okay, and then for these variables, make sure we change these. So this one should be 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6. And at the end of all of this, let's just do a print string so we can just make sure this is making sense. Let's connect this, grab our dice roll, get it, put that into our string. And let's just kind of connect these up. All right, let's try this out. We have all this set up. So roll the die, run the stopped event, check if it's stopped. We'll continue to loop until it does, and then we'll get the dice roll, set the variable, and then we'll check what that is. Okay, let's give this a go. Roll die. And none of the logic ran. So I'm going to bring this off screen. I might not be able to. Let's see if I can debug this. I think this one's... Okay, here's what I did. So I made this delay quite a bit bigger. So actually, I might not even have delay in here. So add a delay after we set the world location, and 3 seconds seems to be what works pretty well. So we're not going to check if it's stopped until after 3 seconds. And then the other thing I did is when you get down to the very bottom of this, so if all of these return false, on this final false, get the dice roll again. Because one of these is going to be facing up, but if it runs too early, it won't be able to, it might not find it. This logic should take care of that, but this is just a good fail safe. So have this run and rerun this event until we find a side that's up. And now we'll check, make sure this works. So we're print stringing in the top left. 4, good. We'll have the server run it. 3, good. 5, good. 2, good. So really, I think that's it. I mean, what you probably do with this now is when you come into your begin planner die, how I would probably use this is I would get game mode and cast to GM turn based. And then create a reference, game mode, make that replicated. So as soon as this actor spawns, we'll get the game mode. And then after we successfully get a die roll, we get our game mode. And within our game mode, let's create a function, die roll number. And this function have an input that is an integer die roll. And then what you could do is something like switch on int. And we want all the way up to 6. So then in your game mode, so let's come back to the die quick. So die roll number. Pass that through here, grab our die roll, pass that through, and I'm going to get rid of this print string. So then this will run to the game mode on the server, and then you could have whatever events you want to have happen on the different numbers. Right? Maybe it's triggers different events. Maybe it's for attacking, so you get extra attack on the dice roll or extra defense, like a risk or an axis of allies type of game. So you can then run that logic from here based off the number that's coming through. And the one thing we'll check here quick is we'll just print string, make sure the game mode, print string, connect this, boom. Just make sure the game mode is getting the correct number passing through. Okay, it's a 3, server run it. 2, good. So yeah, we could pass that through like that. And then maybe at the end of this, maybe do another delay of 1 second. And I think, yeah, and then we'll get our game mode again. and remove all die. So then after we roll the dice, we'll push the value to the game mode. So we roll a 1, and then it removes it. And, maybe it makes sense to do, or I meant to make that a second. And, if you want to customize it further, I think you'll get kind of a better bounce if this drops a little bit higher. And then also within the die, you can play around with some of this rotation. So I might make this 45 and 315. So we're just getting a steeper angle when it spawns. It spawns a little bit higher, so it should bounce a little bit better. So that one was perfectly flat. And if you really want to get creative, move this out of the way. What you could do is make kind of like a little point from this. So the cone. And let's SC this a little bit. And this probably needs to be unwrapped. It's fine, and I will just assign it to the marble material. And file, export, FBX, dash roll plate. And re-import. Sounds a little nub, should make for a little bit of a better balance. Let's try that again. I think maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger. I don't know. You can kind of play around with different shapes. I don't like how quickly that goes away. It's like 5 seconds. I think if this cone is a little bit bigger, whoops, that might make this a little bit better. That might be overkill. Let's try that. You can really kind of customize it however you want. I think this should have a pretty good effect, though. It doesn't bounce off that very well at all. And we got an error infinite loop. I think to fix that, I'll add a little delay here, 0.2. Yeah, at least there, when like that happens, it does something, but it does not bounce well off that. I don't know. You can kind of play around with different shapes, or maybe leave it as is. Play around with the rotation a little bit. But yeah, that's the basics of how to do a die. Special shout out to Gokham Bayhan and Blended. I'll put their videos in the description, but those are the kind of videos I watched to learn how to do this, both in making it in Blender and doing some of the logic. Obviously, I have a little bit of my own spin, but basically learn from their videos. So I'll put them down in the description. They got a lot of good videos, so be sure to give them a look. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.